Just trying to adjust this here. Hello everyone, it's Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist, back today for day 83 of the 100 days of Ayurveda. Um, Thank you for watching this live, and today is another topic by demand. So I have already done 2 sessions on intermittent fasting, but again, as requested, I'm doing another third session. So we're just going to cover intermittent fasting in a nutshell, right? I'm going to post the other videos as well. I posted one yesterday on my Facebook page. I'm going to post the other one probably by tomorrow. Hi Darshana, nice to see you. Hello Uttamji, nice to see you. So as always, if you're watching this live, say a quick hi. If you are watching this as a replay, you can put a hashtag replay. At any point of time, if you have any questions for me, feel free to just post your questions on the comment section, and I will make sure that I'm answering all your questions. So thank you once again for watching. Today we are going to dive deep into intermittent fasting, and we can also talk a little bit about different doshas ayurvedically and how intermittent fasting is going to either support it or can it create hurdles, and we're just going to discuss a little bit more about intermittent fasting, right? Hello Usha ji, nice to see you. Hello Uttam ji, nice to see you. So let's get started. So what exactly is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting basically is, it's one of the most popular trends today, right? It's one of the most popular health trends, but it's also something that is generally healthy. So looking at today's world where overeating or eating when you're not hungry or eating before you've digested the previous meal is extremely common, and that is leading to a lot of digestive disorders. So in such conditions, if you give your body a little bit rest by fasting intermittently, that can be really powerful for your body. Again, intermittent fasting will depend on different people. How safely can they carry? When should they do? Who should avoid? So typically the rule of the thumb is, if you are pregnant or if you're breastfeeding, you can do it safely, but always do it under somebody's guidance. You don't want to fast too much, especially even in Ayurveda, because of the nature of fasting to increase your vata dosh, right? So when you're not eating anything, you know, uh, any prolonged fastings can also increase the vata dosh, right? So you don't want to do that when you're either pregnant or breastfeeding, for sure. If you have a history of eating disorders, that's another condition where, if you're used to um, starving for long times, and if it's become a part of an eating disorder, then I would avoid suggesting intermittent fasting. People having issues with blood sugar imbalance, right? So if your blood sugar is out of balance, if your blood sugar is fluctuating, if suddenly you're somebody whose blood sugar keeps dropping, I would not advise intermittent fasting without consulting a practitioner or working with someone, right? So try not to do this if you are any of, these groups that I'm talking about. But generally, for most healthy people, it is a safe way. Intermittent fasting is also found really valuable in insulin insensitivity, right? So insulin insensitivity is when your own cells are not responding well to your blood sugar balancing hormone insulin. There are receptors on the cells, and then the insulin molecule can go and attach, and it can open up the cell to taking inside the sugar and balancing your blood sugar. But if your cells are not sensitive to your own insulin, it can create a lot of challenges in the body. You could develop diabetes type 2. You could also develop high blood pressure or obesity. These are all related to insulin insensitivity. PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, is another common thing associated with insulin insensitivity, right? So this can actually help sensitize your body to your insulin. Intermittent fasting also has a lot of value in weight loss, right? One reason is also you're controlling how much calories you're eating when you're having 2 or 3 meals a day, right? So you're not going to eat enormous amounts. And it can also generally clean up your body, right? So there is some process called autophagy where your cells start eating the leftover debris and all that and cleaning themselves up. So this also has a huge value when it comes to rejuvenating your body or anti-aging protocols, right? So this is something that we're going to discuss a little bit today. And also for your brain, if you are fasting, there has been study done on Alzheimer's disease that fasting can actually be beneficial for brain health and prevent the misfolding of protein that happens in Alzheimer's as well. So intermittent fasting 100% has a lot of value if you do it right. And there are different diets. There was one diet which was very popular in India called Dikshit diet, where you're just eating twice a day in the span of 45 minutes. And so that is a little bit based on intermittent fasting, right? So we're going to talk about different kinds of intermittent fasting in this video today. So intermittent fasting is a pattern where you go between fasting and eating, right? So it's not about specific foods. It's not technically like a diet sort of. It's not going to tell you to avoid certain foods or eat certain foods. It's not going to ask you to become a vegan or a vegetarian, but it's just telling you to go between fasting and eating. So you're just alternating between fasting, and you're also going to alternate between eating, right? And then the most common that you'll see is 16-hour fasts, right? Or some people also fast for 24 hours twice a week. That's also possible. Sometimes people fast on the weekends, right? So if you have had your dinner at 6 o'clock one evening, then you wait till it's 6 o'clock of the next evening. So that gives you a 24-hour fast. And sometimes you can eat your dinner at 6 and then straight away have your breakfast at 10 o'clock, right? So that's going to give you a 16-hour fast. So you can do 12-hour fasts where you can eat your dinner at probably 6 and then have your breakfast at 6. That's a 12-hour fast. You can have your dinner at 6 and have your breakfast at 8. That's a 14-hour fast. Or you can have your dinner at 6 and your breakfast at 10. That's a 16-hour fast, right? So 16, 18 hours you can choose. There is a lot of flexibility with intermittent fasting, right? And then there are also some people who will fast, who will just drink water, who won't eat anything, right? For 24 hours or sometimes 48 hours or even 72 hours, right? But I will not recommend fasting beyond 24 hours unless you're working with a practitioner or under somebody's supervision. So that's extremely important. You don't want to do that, right? So we talked about like the 16-8 method, which is also common. There is the eat stop eat method, which is 24 hours once or twice a week you're going to fast and not eat anything. So one dinner to the other dinner, or one breakfast till the other breakfast, however you choose to do this. And there's also the 5-2 method where you can consume 500 600 calories on 2 non-consecutive days, right? And eat normally on the other 5 days. So this is also an option. So technically here what they're doing is you're trying to restrict the amount of calories in a safe, easy way. And that's also going to help with weight loss, right? And you have to make sure you're not overeating between the meals, or you're not compensating by eating too many calories when you get a chance to eat. So this is something that's important to note. So how does this intermittent fasting help your cells or affect your hormones? So what happens is there are a lot of changes that take place in your body on different cellular and molecular levels, right? So your body start repairing itself. It can also change the expression of your genes. Your body is also going to make fat more accessible because you haven't eaten food, you don't have a stream of glucose, right? Now your body needs energy, so it's actually going to tap into the fat, right? So when you're intermittent fasting, because you're not having this instant release of sugar, your body is really tapping into the fat now. And now you can look at fat loss rather than just losing weight, right? Intermittent fasting, if you do it for longer terms, can also create a lot of muscle mass. So you have to be a little bit careful, right? If you're fasting for long periods, you might end up losing muscle as well. So be a bit careful about that. Now, what changes are going to occur at the hormonal level? So the growth hormone, right? We talk about HGH, or the human growth hormone. It's going to increase in your body as much as fivefold. And that also helps fat loss. And this can also create gaining some muscle mass, right? Insulin is going to, the sensitivity is going to improve, and the excess insulin that was secreted in your body or pushed in your body doesn't have to be pushed. So your insulin levels can lower naturally, and thus your body can use up more fat which is stored up, right? Your body also starts repairing itself different at the cellular level. So any of the proteins that are not useful anymore, any of the old proteins that are just forming like a lot of debris, your cells can start eating them up like a Pac-Man, and then it's going to clean your system up. And it is also seen that certain genes related to longevity and protection against disease are turned on as well, right? So intermittent fasting also in different conditions like cancer, it has found to be beneficial. Again, always fast under somebody's guidance. Weight loss is one of the main things that people go towards intermittent fasting in today's world, right? So how that works is when you have fewer meals in the day, not smaller meals, fewer meals, right? So automatically you can reduce the amount of calories you're eating. So that's the one reason why you can lose weight on it. The second one is also the hormonal changes that are occurring. Your insulin is now more sensitive. You're not going to store more fat. Your body is actually tapping into the body fat. So because of that as well, you can start losing weight. And this also leads to increasing your metabolic rate, right? So intermittent fasting can increase your metabolic rate, but if you are fasting for long term without putting the right foods in your body, your metabolism can also slow down. So be a little bit careful. So 16/8 fast, you can do it, but don't fast for too long without any guidance if weight loss is your strategy, right? Or what you're looking for. So intermittent fasting, there is some study around the waist circumference. There are so some people lost 4 to 7% of waist circumference. So the belly fat, which is like the most stubborn kind of fat that doesn't go away easily, can also be lost when you are doing intermittent fasting, right? So this is something you can definitely try if you are working with fertility, or if you're working if you're pregnant, or if you are breastfeeding. Again, I wouldn't advise you to really go into it, right? Now, when we talk about inflammation in the body, so there are different markers of inflammation. There's C-reactive protein, there are some other markers. So this intermittent fasting has also shown to lower your markers for inflammation, right? So intermittent fasting has also shown to lower LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol, right? We've talked about cholesterol before, so you can always go onto my YouTube page or scroll through the Facebook page to check out old videos. So heart health, it's definitely going to improve your heart health by reducing your bad cholesterol, or the LDL cholesterol which is deposited in your body, right? Animal studies on intermittent fasting also show that it can prevent cancer. Brain health, it's extremely important for protection against Alzheimer's disease. That's what's found now. And there are studies done that also showed that intermittent fasting can actually prolong your life and has an anti-aging effect as well, right? So it's just something simple that you can do on your own. Hi Jocelyn, nice to see you. So it's something you can do on your own in a safe way, but just don't go too crazy about it, if you are one of those people who cannot do it or who should be avoiding it, right? So a few times when I would advise not going on long fast, one of them is, we talked about pregnancy, we talked about um, breastfeeding, we talked about if somebody is really wanting fertility or planning for fertility, right? When The other thing is, during menstruation, if you have lots of heavy menstruation, right? And in Ayurveda, we believe that, your apana vayu is more dominant when you are menstruating, right? It's the downward movement of the vata. So you don't want to fast for a long time, right? Because that's going to create a scene of vata aggravation. You're already not feeling 100%. You're feeling a little bit weaker. Your agni or digestive capacity is already like weakened. You can fast for smaller amounts, but don't carry too long of a fasting if you are having heavy periods, so that's something also to keep in mind. We talked about diabetes, people having diabetes or imbalanced blood sugars, or people whose blood sugar can go low, too low of blood pressure, if you're super underweight, right? Or have history of eating disorders, have a history of not menstruating, right? Amenorrhea, right? If you have too less of body fat, so body fat is also important. So sometimes amenorrhea or not having a menstruation is also because of really low amounts of body fat. So that could be one cause. It's not the only cause. But when you have low reserves of fat in your body, intermittent fasting is going to decrease even that further. So you can definitely, avoid intermittent fasting if these are the conditions. Now, who should be fasting intermittently? The one thing is, if you have a poor digestion, if you have a sluggish digestion, right? Ideally, fasting is going to help increase your digestive capacity because you're not overloading your digestive tract. So if you have a really poor digestion where you're not digesting food and you feel really heavy after eating all the time, try intermittent fasting. It might work really well for you, right? In Ayurveda, we talk about ama. So a condition where because of the weakened digestive fire, you're not processing foods well, and then it forms certain toxic substances that keep circulating in your body. So if you have lots of ama, right? Some signs are feeling lethargic when you wake up. You feel really heavy, you feel really sluggish, you might retain a lot of water. So if you have these conditions going on in the body, intermittent fasting is actually going to help you, right? Someone who's obese, intermittent fasting is going to help you for sure. Cut down on the calories. It's going to cut down on, tap into your body fat as well. And a person who's eating all the time, right? So some people are grazers, they eat all the time. So for such a person as well, intermittent fasting can actually regulate your digestion, right? So if you're eating all the time, and this is definitely, more valuable when we talk about intermittent fasting, right? So let's talk a little bit about Ayurvedic doshas, right? So we talk about the three dosha types. We've spoken about Vata, Pitta, Kapha, right? So Vata is known as the energy of the wind, right? So people having a Vata dominant nature are usually people who have dry skin, who are constipated, who can be bloated easily, right? They're overwhelmed, anxious most times. They're also super creative. They also have lots of new ideas, right? But they don't have a lot of stores of energy in the body in the form of food or in the form of nutrients in the body, or too much muscle on. So that's why you'll see a lot of Vata Prakriti or Vata dominant people are really lean and thin, and they don't have enough reserves in the body, right? So they don't have enough muscle mass, they don't have enough, stored calories, stored fat in the body. So for such a person who's Vata dominant, ideally avoiding fasting more than 12 hours is a good idea. So if you are a Vata Prakriti person, right, unless you have a lot of armor or unless you're working with someone, do not fast for more than 12 hours. 14, you can go by, like get away with it, but don't fast for 24 hours or something. You will throw your Vata out of balance and you will start feeling exhausted, and things might not work as well, right? And Vatas tend to get really anxious when they're hungry if they haven't eaten for a long time. Vata Prakriti people are like really anxious, so intermittent fasting for long hours will further aggravate this Vata dosh, right? So that's one thing to remember. So if Vata dosh people have some other conditions going on, of course, you can, but not typically. Now, when we talk about pitta, so these are the people having a lot of fire in their body. Their digestive fire is also extremely strong. People are also sharp and they're fast and they're on top of everything. These are people who get red eyes, after a workout, or after exposure to sun, their skin starts flushing or their eyes start getting red, right? And they're leaders, but they're hot headed. So for pittas, because of the strong digestion that they have, again, don't fast for long periods. Now pittas can fast for 14 to 16 hours easily, but when you are going to eat your meals, even with intermittent fasting, make sure you're having protein at the meals, because then your digestive fire is otherwise going to burn through the carbs easily, right? Protein takes time to digest, it sits in your belly for a long time. So that is a strategy you can employ if you are a pitta dominant person, but don't take the fast too long. At 24 hours, you might end up being hangry, you might end up being extremely cranky and irritable if you take the fasting too long, right? Now, the third category is the kapha dosh, right? Or kapha dosh, how it's called. So kapha literally means, the energy of the moon, or it's the energy where there's a lot of stickiness in the body, or there is lots of nourishment in the body. So these are people having broader shoulders. They have good amounts of fat in the body. They have good amounts of muscle mass, right? And for these people, they can easily fast for 24 hours or even more. So 24-hour fasting, if you are a kapha dominant person, you might have a sluggish metabolism, you might have a little more fat in the body, right? You have good reserves in the body. You can definitely do a 24-hour fast. You can start drinking hot water and focus on fasting. And for a kapha person, usually one of the signs is that, fasting makes you feel lighter. If you eat too much, you start feeling bogged down and more lethargic. So for such a person, definitely intermittent fasting has a lot of good value, right? So these are the few things about dosha types. Again, there is no one size fits all in Ayurveda. Everything is customized according to the individual, and that's how the fasting should be carried as well. If you have questions, let me know. I'm going to take some questions. So again, you can see with fasting or intermittent fasting, you have the liberty of breaking your fast with anything that you want. Intermittent fasting is not about have this to break fast or have that to break fast. So I'm going to talk about fasting with spiritual significance on Thursday, right? And those fasts are different. Those fasts are way different. They're very different in different cultures. Where I come from, there's a certain protocol that you follow for fast where you're focusing more on sattvic foods or foods that are not going to inflame your mind, right, and help you focus. Some other cultures, you're going to fast from the sunrise or before the sunrise till the sunset, and then you're going to break fast. So depending on what you're looking for, or what culture you come from, what tradition you come from, those fasts would be slightly different. When it comes to intermittent fasting, Uttamji is saying that, can you take, 2 teaspoons of honey, lemon juice, ginger juice, and turmeric in warm water a couple of hours before breakfast, considered to break the fast. So when you eat something that has honey, technically, again, it's a simple sugar. So the moment you add some simple sugars, you are breaking the fast, right? So you can definitely do this, but the moment you introduce any glucose via fruit or any sugar, you are considered to break the fast, because your body is going to secrete that insulin response in um, secrete insulin in response to the sugar you've just consumed, right? So even if it's a fruit and all, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? But again, the moment you eat something, you will be breaking the fast unless it's water. So supplements, again, that's a good question, right? So supplements could also, or medications will break a fast. Medications typically not, right? Because most times the fast is broken like an example of a supplement will be if you're taking something like collagen, which is more protein, or if you're taking a protein shake, which is also constituted as a supplement, it's not like food, it can be a supplement. At that time, you'll be breaking a fast. But if depending on the medication, it might not break the fast, right? Um, if it's like a syrup which has some sugar, then you will break a fast. So again, it's very subjective. Ideally, if you're on medications, prescriptions, I would not never advise you to go off it. When you're fasting, always work with your doctors, your primary healthcare practitioners. But fasting, like, do it in a way that your body feels light and your body feels healthy, right? So some signs that your fasting is working for you, the first one is your body should start feeling lighter. You should start feeling more focused. If you're fasting for 12 hours, technically, your body starts producing ketones, right? If you haven't eaten for 12 hours, your body starts producing ketones from fats, and that make you focused and sharp, right? So if you're feeling alert, if you're feeling focused, if you're feeling stronger, not super weak, right? Or even mentally strong, clearer, less foggier. If you have good energy, you're not feeling lethargic or bogged down, that shows that the fasting is working for you. But if you feel dizzy, if you feel like you're going to faint, if you feel like you're going to eat the sofa, right? Or your chairs or any of your furniture, if you start getting angry, if you start feeling extremely weak, if you start, shaking, these are signs that you're exceeding your body's capacity to fast, right? And you should probably eat something. So always, be guided by your body, always get in tune with your body, right? So don't fast because somebody else is fasting for 16 hours, right? I can easily fast for 24 hours, but not everybody can. So this depends on your body capacity, your digestion, what's going on with your body. And again, in my pitta phase, or as in my 20s, I would be extremely angry if I wouldn't eat. Like on the days I would fast, um I would pick all fights, on the days I would fast. So when you are angry or irritable, right, so is not a good sign, right? So it is asking, can dizziness, crankiness just be temporary until your body gets used to it? So dizziness or crankiness could also come from lowered blood sugar, right? So that's the one thing. So your body's like, okay, I need food, because this is your body's mechanism of like getting food when it needs it. It can be temporary till your body gets used to it. For somebody who hasn't fasted ever, and then they fast, and then after some time your body can adapt and suit well to the fast. But if you have severe issues with blood sugar or lowered blood pressure, right, then it's not a good idea, right? If you're getting extremely cranky, if you're getting extremely irritable, or if you're really dizzy and you can't carry out your work, then there is really no point in fasting for that long. So like, people will tell you different opinions. Some people are like, just deal with it and just keep fasting and moving forward, right? But not really. Like in Ayurveda, if you start feeling exhausted, tired, and really depleted, you're aggravating your vata dosh. So it's not a good idea. Till some extent, you can think it's temporary, but if it's extreme irritability or crankiness, then just eat something. The chances are the fast you're doing is not working for you, right? So those are a few simple things I wanted to talk about intermittent fasting. I know a lot of people are trying, intermittent fasting. Ideally, the kind of fasting to do according to Ayurveda is, 3 meals or 2 meals a day. So there is this saying where, the person who eats, once is a yogi, the person who eats twice is a bhogi, and the person who eats thrice is a rogi, right? So the person who eats once can have a lot of spiritual progress, technically, like yoga, or is more connected with himself or herself. Person who eats twice is more attached to the pleasures of the palate, or a bhogi. The person who eats thrice, rogi, means somebody who's suffering from any ill health, right? So that is an old saying. in today's world, because of certain dietary changes or the stress levels or just the bath aggravation of how busy we are, ideally for most people, eating 2 or 3 times is advisable, right? One thing I advise is having small portions of protein at each meal. So do not just go for a completely carb rich diet. If you're having rice, again, add some dal, add some lentils, add some fish, some piece of meat, whatever your protein is. If you're eating oatmeal, add hemp seeds, add some nuts, like whatever you want, right? So definitely, protein at each meal, but try not to graze throughout the day. So in today's world, the big problem that we see is, people are eating, and before they have digested the previous meal, we start and eat once again, right? So this is like habitual eating. So what this does is you're going to lose your hunger cues. You're never going to understand when your body is hungry, because you're never letting it be hungry. Before it tells you it's hungry, you just keep eating and eating and eating, right? So that's not healthy too. This creates a lot of inflammation. This can create ama. This can create more toxicity. So that is not a good thing. So ideally, even if you keep a minimum of 3 or 4 hour gap between main meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's a good sign. That's a good thing to do. A 16-hour fast is doable for most people. A 12-hour fast is doable for maximum people, right? 14-hour fast, and then you can build up, right? If you're somebody who's grazing all the time, try to have 3 meals first rather than focusing on the fasting, right? And not graze in between. If you are someone who's used to doing a 12-hour fast, then go towards 14. So gradually, work with your body. Help your body, by understanding its cues, right? If you're disconnected with your body, no matter how much you fast, it might not help you because you're not understanding the cues of the body, right? So that's the one thing to remember. I'm gonna take a question. So yeah, so especially if you have diabetes, right? Always, monitor your blood sugar. So for a person who has issues with blood sugar imbalance, right? Always monitor your blood sugar. So that's extremely important, right? Um, Even with people having issues with blood pressure, also monitor your blood pressure. If you're someone who's used to having low blood pressure and you're fasting for a long time, that can further drop your blood pressure. So you don't want to take any risk, right? So always, do what feels good to the body as well, right? And work with it and gradually make changes. Don't make drastic changes, in a day or so. So that might create more issues for you, right? So that's all for today. If you have any questions, you can post it in the comment section. And I will be back on Thursday. I'm going to talk about spirituality and fasting, right? Can fasting help spiritual growth? Or is fasting more a distraction? Or is fasting mainly for body? So we're going to cover all those things on Thursday at 8 p.m. in day for day 84 of the 100 Days of Ayurveda. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. from the Blue Water Nutrition page, and also on my YouTube, and also on my Facebook group. Inside my Facebook group, I'm going to share a little bit about allergies and immunity. So those are a few things I'm going to talk about this week. This weekend we have a really amazing expert interview. It's going to be again screened on my Facebook page, inside my Facebook group, as well as YouTube. But we have Nandi Shivam. So he is a Vedic astrologer. He's going to talk about the planetary archetypes, right? So that's going to be quite an interesting topic. So he's going to talk about different planetary archetypes and what it means to be born on a certain day. So it's like really interesting. I was born on Sunday, so I'm really interested in finding out, what does being born on a certain day of the week mean. So it'll be interesting. So that's for this Saturday. We're going to talk about the 7 planetary archetypes in our interview with Nandi Shivam. So these are all the things that are happening today. So that's amazing. Thank you for showing up live. I just started my course for Ayurvedic doctors, Align, Execute, and Profit. And today was the first day, the first module that went really well. I'm super excited about it. It's also my late dad's birthday. So my dad passed away in 2009, but it's his birthday. So I'm kind of happy that, I could launch the course. And he was someone who would work extremely hard, at whatever he did and really be passionate about it and was really committed to everything that he did. So it's really a good thing that I could launch this course on such a wonderful day. So thank you all for watching this live. Have a fantastic night. I will see you all tomorrow at 1 p.m. for allergies and immunity. So have a fantastic night. Bye for now. Okay. Also, Colleen is saying that, oh, you started intermittent fasting on Monday. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so keep an eye on the signs and symptoms that you're seeing, the signs in your body. If you start developing symptoms, it's time you've taken, you might understand that you've taken it too far. Again, thank you for watching this live, and I will see you